talk a little NL East baseball. Mike Puma does a great job covering the Mets for the Post. Kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on this Tuesday at 1:05. Mike, how you been, pal?
I'm all right. How you guys doing?
We're doing real well. Appreciate a couple moments, and let's get into it. And I'm curious, you look at the Mets, somewhat the new-look Mets with Callaway. You look at their pitching staff. I mean, to me, first and foremost, what were your first impressions on Callaway? And the expectations for him this year, is it more or less to just handle the staff, make sure that this is a healthy pitching staff? But give me your thoughts on Callaway first.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest reason he was brought in here, they really like his communication skills. He was highly recommended by Terry Francona from his time in Cleveland as the pitching coach there. And I think, the fact he is a pitching coach is a nice added touch. But, the number one reason he's here is because they think he's got the managerial skills. And but for a team that's predicated on pitching, like you said, the idea of having a pitching guy here, I think that just kind of adds to his resume a little bit.
Yeah, isn't it typical, right, though, with some of the Met fans, you see Syndergaard go out and just be dominant, and then all of a sudden people are worried about how hard he's throwing. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at this pitching staff, the starting rotation, as great as these guys are on paper, they're just never healthy. They can never seem to put it together for a complete season. I saw the move with Vargas. I mean, I know there's some talk about Wheeler coming out of the pen. We'll get to that in a moment. But what are your expectations with the starting rotation going into this year? I mean, where do you see these guys right now?
I think it could be a very good rotation, but you just don't know about the health because so much of it was decimated by injuries last year. I mean, the one guy who stayed healthy all year was Jacob deGrom, had a very good season, and now here we are today. He's got some back stiffness, and he's been set back a little bit in camp. So it just goes to show you how fragile this whole thing is. Syndergaard pitched yesterday, was throwing 100 miles an hour. It looked very good, but at the same time, we saw what happened with him last year where he tore the lat. So they've got, they think they have 7, 8, maybe even 9 potential starting pitchers. But it's just kind of a matter of piecing it together and seeing who's going to be the healthy arms.
Yeah, and I mentioned Vargas. I mean, they put a lot of money into that payroll this year with Bruce and Frazier and Swarzak and Reyes and Gonzalez. I mentioned Vargas, 2-year deal last week, and now they have 2 spots essentially open for 6 guys who were starters last season. So with that being said, do you think Wheeler starts the season out of the pen?
I think if everybody's healthy, he probably goes to the bullpen. Just because he makes the most logical sense. Because I don't think they're gonna put Harvey in the bullpen, and then I think they're reluctant to put Matz down there. So I think Wheeler's the guy they're looking at as potentially for that bullpen. But same time, let's see where they are in a couple of weeks because they may need Wheeler may be a part of their rotation based on how some of these guys are feeling.
You mentioned Harvey. Listen. He burst on the scene, but the issue is, even though if he has good stuff or not, the health, the inconsistencies. I mean, is there more of a player on the Mets going into a season that's going to be more under the microscope than Matt Harvey?
Harvey's going to be, if he's not at the top of the list, he's close to it. Yeah, you look at his last 2 years have gone badly, and it's been the health. 2 years ago, he had the surgery for the thoracic outlet syndrome. Last year, he had some weakness in the back of his arm that shut him down for a couple of months. And, this is his free agent year, and he wants to pitch well. But at the same time, I don't think it's as much mental with this guy. It's just, does he have the bullets left? Does he have anything physically left? Because, that thoracic outlet syndrome is something that's difficult to come back from.
I think they're going to score some runs this year. I mean, you look at the line of Cabrera, Cespedes, Bruce, Frazier, Gonzalez. It seems as though I mean, it's cliche to say with every team in baseball, but it just seems as though it's going to come down to the starting pitching. When you kind of handicap the NL East, and we saw some movement with some different managers, different GMs. I mean, we have the Phillies in our backyard, the Mets right up the turnpike. You see what's going on with Atlanta, and then the Marlins. Washington, everyone believes, is going to be the team to beat. How do the Mets stack up in your eyes when you look at the rest of the NL East?
Yeah, I think the Mets are probably the clear-cut second best team in the division right now, just based on kind of the combination of experience and some of the young players. A kid like Ahmed Rosario looks like he can be a pretty good player. That said, the Mets being the second best team in the division, I think they're a good length behind Washington right now, just because the Nationals have a lot of answers, whether it's that starting rotation or that lineup's just about as good as anybody. So, but I think if the Mets stay healthy, they can be in that wild card mix. And if they're healthy and Washington gets hit by injury problems, certainly it could be a race in the NL East.
Yeah, and they're dealing, obviously, some early injuries right now. You mentioned DeGrom, Cespedes, Dominic Smith, Lagares. I mean, what kind of impression does Dominic Smith make on Callaway, the fact that you're late? I mean, that's not the good way to start off your major league career. I mean, do you think this is a one-shot deal here, or is this something that bears worth watching with this kid?
I think he understands it. He's a good kid, pretty hard worker. Spent the off season losing 30 pounds, and I think he got the message loud and clear. First day of the Grapefruit League when he showed up late, was scratched from the lineup. So with him, now he's got the quadriceps thing. We'll see how much that sets him back, because they brought Adrian Gonzalez here, and from all indications, he's the first baseman, and unless he has some physical setback or shows absolutely nothing in spring training, I think it's his job. And so Dominic Smith's chances of unseating him were slim to begin with. Now, if he's hurt, it's gonna set him back.
Look, David Wright has been a great Met. He's been the consummate pro. He's a pro's pro, as they say. I mean, honestly, is he done? You're talking about a 35-year-old that is just broken down, and I know he wants to give it his all and come back and play. The back issues, that's always tricky, these injuries. Do you think he's done? Do you think he's just finished? And second, how much do the Mets lose from a leadership standpoint without Wright there?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if we see David Wright play again. It's just been one thing after another since 2015, and now he's coming off of 2 surgeries since September. Here we are a couple of weeks into spring training. He hasn't even begun any baseball activities. And then you have the issue, even if he does get back into baseball shape, it'll be 2 years since he's played in a major league game. Can he catch up to the speed of the game again? So, I don't think we're going to see David Wright again. And maybe he'll surprise us, but and maybe he can contribute in some way. And from a leadership perspective, I think that's why they brought in guys. They brought Jay Bruce back. They brought in Todd Frazier. Adrian Gonzalez has some of that. So there's some good veterans they brought in to help compensate for that.
Last one before I let you get out of here, and again, Mike Puma, kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on a Tuesday. Jose Reyes, is he looking to be more of that mentor to Rosario this year?
I think so, and I think that helped get him back here.
Good point.
For another season. Just the fact that he kind of played that card, that he was so tight with Rosario. And listen, the second half of last season, Reyes was pretty good for them. The first half was dreadful. He almost got released. So, he'll move around, play a few different positions, but certainly the fact that he can play that mentor role for Rosario will be helpful for the Mets.
And then you said in closing, a wild card team at least contend for maybe that first or second wild card, or a second wild card. You're looking, is 82, 85 wins? That's realistic. Is that something? Give or take.
I think now if they lose a couple
pitchers
before opening day, right. I'll revise it. But the way they're drawn up right now, I could see them as a 83-win team, something like that.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Listen, baseball's back. It's always interesting. Phillies they're going through the same thing. I mean, they got younger core players, younger infield. They're still trying to solidify their starters, even though they named Nola. They've got some pitching issues as well. The NL East, I still think it's Washington's division. Come on, let's be honest. The only question is, what are they going to do come playoff time, right? The Washington Nationals.
Right.
Yeah, always the same.
They're just, at some point they got to make a run in the postseason. They haven't won a playoff series yet. So, But, they got to get back there first. It's not like you just pick up where you left off last year. So
No, everyone starts fresh. That's the beauty of baseball. Mike, appreciate a couple moments, pal. We'll definitely talk during the season. Appreciate a couple moments on a Tuesday.
all right, take care.
All right, you got it. Mike Puma from the Post on the Mets.